Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Gittin daf Nun Zion. We are in the middle of the story of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, and we are going to continue that story today. Yesterday, we learned the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, and how one of them was invited to a party when it was really supposed to go to the other one, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't like it. The host didn't like it, but the Kamsa was really feeling embarrassed, right? And we're going to reference that later today, how bad the idea of embarrassment is. What? That's right. He wanted to take revenge, so he sent a note to the Romans, and the Romans ended up destroying Jerusalem. So that shows how powerful revenge is, but also how bad it is to embarrass somebody, because it's the Gemara elsewhere says it's like you kill the person. So we have to be very, very careful. But who was it that destroyed the Beit HaMikdash according to the Gemara? It was Titus and Titus of Russia. And we last concluded hearing about how Titus said to God, why don't you fight me on the land? Because I didn't want, he was like, you can kill everybody in the sea, but I want to see you fight me on the land. And God said, all right, well, if you think that you can beat me on the land, I'm going to send the littlest fly, a little gnat, and the gnat is going to defeat you. And the gnat flew into his nose and ate his brain. Yeah, disgusting. All right, so, and it did so for 7 years until he eventually died. And every day of those 7 years, he was in tremendous pain, except for 1 month when they were able to make a loud noise, and the loud noise stopped the bug from eating his brain. And so as a result, he had some relief, but it was just for 30 days, and that was it. Okay, so we have left Titus as he is dying, and we pick up on the fifth to last line of Nun Vav Amabet, in the middle of the line, Ki Hava Kamayis, when Titus was about to die, Amar Lahu, he said to everybody around, Likleyu Lahahu Gavra, burn this person. Now, this person, he's referring to himself. That's the way people often refer to themselves in the third party. That certainly was the case in the Gemara's time, apparently. Ulavadre lekitme eshev yamei, and and spread out the ashes on the 7 seas. Delo lashkeche elaka diudai velokme bedina, because I don't want the God of the Jews to find me, and to set me up for judgment. He's realized now, after having had his brain eaten for 7 years, that maybe he's the one who made a mistake here and not God, and that in fact he should be he's deserving of a penalty and being tried. Well, that's a great point, and and it relates directly to the next story. Well, we'll see. You're gonna hear that we're gonna talk about heaven and hell now. So, Onkelos bar Clonicus bar Achase de Titus. So now we're going to talk about the story of Onkelos. He was the convert who wrote the Aramaic translation of the Torah, and because it turns out he was the nephew of Titus. So Titus. So as a result, Onkelos and Havabai, the Yigur Gayure, and he was thinking about converting, and in fact he did convert, and he was the one who authored the Aramaic translation on the Torah. That if you open any chumash, most chumashim, it will include Targum Onkelos. And so Azul Aske Latitus Benegida. So he got in touch with Titus. Titus had already died, but he used necromancy. Necromancy is the magical power of talking to the dead. So the dead can sometimes communicate with us. So, but we're not supposed to do that. So he talks to Titus, and Omerlai, Man chashav bahu alma. Where you are, who is considered important? Meaning in the future world, in the world to come, who's considered important? So Amar Le, Yisrael, the Jewish people are important. So should I join them? Should I connect to them? So Titus said, Amar Le, milayu nefishin v'lo matzis l'kayuminu. Look, they have so many laws. There are so many laws that the Jews have. You're not going to be able to do them all. Zil igare bahu alma. You go and do what I did. Go and attack them in this world. Because if you attack them in this world, the Havis Resha, you'll become a leader in this world. Because we have a pasuk in Eicha, which we'll be reading in just over 2 weeks. Hayutzareha larosh, that Israel's enemies become the leaders. Kol hametzer liyisrael nasa rosh. Whoever persecutes the Jewish people will become a leader. So Amar Le, dine dehahu gavra b'mai. So what is your punishment? Again, this other guy, we're referring to him, how do you live your life? So Amar Le, as we turn to Nun Zayin Amud Aleph, b'mai depasuk anafshe, well, it's what I said for myself. Because what did he say should happen to his body? He said his body should be burned and his ashes spread around the world. So kol yoma machneshele lekitme v'dainele. So every day they gather all of his ashes from all around the world all together. They create him again, and then v'kalule umavadru ashev yame, and then they burn him because he's subject to the death penalty because of the terrible treatment he did for the Jewish people, and they rescatter his ashes over the 7 seas. Okay, so that wasn't enough for Onkelos to convince him, so he goes and asks somebody else. So Azal aske lebilam b'negida. So he used again negida, necromancy, to contact Bilam. Amar Le man chashabahu halma. Who's important in the next world? Amar Le Yisrael. So so should I join them? So Amar Le lo sidrash shlomam v'tovasam kol hayamim. You should not look after their peace all the days, because bottom line is I'm sorry, lo sidrash shlomam v'tovasam kol hayamim. Don't seek out either their peace or their benefit all the days, because the bottom line is that you are you're not going to, it's not going to go. He's saying, look, I couldn't connect to the Jewish people because I am part of Moab, and as a result, you shouldn't bother either. So he asked, so what happens to you? So Amar Le dine dahu gabra b'mai. What's your judgment? Amar Le b'shichva zera rosachas. Basically, I'm boiling in shichva zera, the emissions of a man, and that's really terrible. And so it's again another warning for Onkelos about his behavior. Azel aske b'negida, and of course it makes sense that he would be boiling in that, because it was his idea to send the daughters of Moab and Midian to tempt the Jewish men. So that was the story. All right, fitting conclusion. So Azal aske b'negida l'foshe Yisrael. So then Onkelos went and to see the sinners of Israel. Now, on one possible understanding is that this was a correction of the not editors, but the censors, that this was actually a reference to Jesus, but they changed it, and so, but because we now will talk about a singular person. So Amar Le. So again, Onkelos asked the person, Man chashav bahu alma, who's important in the world to come? Amar Le, Israel. Mahud li'idabuke bahu, should I connect with them? Amar Le, tovasam drosh rasam lo tidrosh. Look, you should look out for their benefit, don't try to harm them. So kol nogea behen ki'ilu nogea bevas eno, because anybody who tries to harm them, it's like you touch your eye, and just as when you touch your eye you hurt yourself, don't and you shouldn't do it. So too, don't touch the Jewish people. So Amrle dini dehu gabra b'mai. What's your judgment? Amrle bitsoa rotachas. I'm boiling in feces. De Amar Mar, because that's what people say. Kol hamalig al divrei chachamim. Anyone who mocks the words of the rabbis, nidon bitsoa rotachas, is going to be punished in boiling poop. So tachazi ma bein posha Yisrael and nevi'e umos ha'olam. So ovdei umos ha'olam ovdei avodah zara, and you can see in the responses given by the sinner of Israel, compared to those sinners from the other nations. The sinners from the other nations, they were saying that you could try, just don't be good to the Jews. Maybe you can even harm the Jews, as Titus was saying, or you could be neutral, as Bilam was saying, but they weren't positive. But the last one, the Posha Yisrael, he actually said, no, you have to be good to the Jews. So, all right, so there you have it. Okay, so we had talked about this Kamsa Bar Kamsa story. So now we come back to this important teaching. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Boer a b'meh b'gedola kocha shel busha. Look how powerful it is if you embarrass somebody. Shaharei siyah hakadosh baruch hu es bar kamsa v'hechariv es beito v'saraf es hechalo. Because the bottom line is that Hashem only, everything happens on some level with the will of God. And so Hashem wanted felt that it was appropriate to destroy the Beit HaMikdash to facilitate Bar Kamsa's effort at revenge based on his embarrassment. It shows that God really felt that embarrassing somebody is so terrible that it was worth destroying the Beit HaMikdash and the Heichal. Okay, so we said that there were three stories that we were going to tell. The first one was the Kamsa Bar Kamsa story. The second story is going to be about these chickens, and the third story is about a carriage. So what's the story about the chickens? Atarnagola v'atarnagolos galta charav Tur Malka. So Tur Malka, also known as Har HaMelech, which is an area in Yehuda with many, many cities and people living there. All of it was destroyed because of a rooster and a hen. What happened? There was a custom that when a groom and bride would come out for their wedding, they would take out a male and female chicken, and they would say, Kolomar, and put that in front of them. Kolomar, in order to say, you should be fruitful like chickens. Yom Echad, Havaka Chalif Gunda Derome. One day, a group of Romans was coming by, Shaklinu Minayu, and they took the chickens from them. Wow. And Naflu Alayhu Machuno. So the people all came and attacked the Romans. Asu Amrule Le Caesar. So they went and they told the Caesar, the Caesar, Mardubach Le Yehudai, the Jews are rebelling against you. Asa Alayu. And then of course Caesar came and destroyed Har HaMelech Tur Malka. So Hava Bahu Hahu Bar Droma. Now, how did he do that? So we're going to have that story now. So there was among the Jews this particularly a powerful warrior, Dahavu Kafatz Mila. He was able to jump a whole meal, basically almost like a kilometer. Okay, Dahavu V'Katal Bahu, and then he would be able to kill somebody. So he would jump, kill somebody, and then you wouldn't be able to get him because he'd be able to jump away. So Shakle Kesar Lutage. We're going to get it. Well, you're going to hear. Shakle Kesar Vitage V'Osve Aara. So the Caesar put his crown on the ground because he realized that if he didn't do something, he would be killed by this guy. So he put his crown on the ground. And Amar, he said, Ribone de Olma Kule, master of the entire universe, meaning he's praying to God, our God. If it pleases you, lo timsere lahahu gavra l'didei ulamalchuse biyade dechad gavra. Don't, listen, don't deliver me to this man and have me killed by this single individual. Achshale pume lebar deroma va'amar. So the person who, the downfall came through the mouth of the person who's this Jewish southerner, from the south of Israel, who said the following: "Halo ata Elokim zanachtanu v'lo tetzei Elokim b'tzivosenu." This is a pasuk in Tehillim where David is asking a question. He says, "Isn't it you, God, you've forsaken us? Do not go forth, God, with with our legions." Meaning, it seems sometimes like God isn't with us, but David was asking it as a question. But now this person is stating it as a fact. He was saying, "Listen, I'm so great as a warrior. I don't need to worry about anything. I can be okay." So David Nami are haki. So the Torah says, the Gemara asks, I don't understand. David said this as well. So how bad could it be? So David atmuhe kamasme. So David was asking it as a question. This person was saying it as the statement. And so as a result, what happened? Al Beit Hakise, this powerful Jewish soldier went into the bathroom. Asa Drakona Shamte Lekarkshe V'nach Nafshe. So a snake came in and he ate him from the inside out, and he died. Amar. So Kesar recognized the miracle that happened to save him. Since a miracle happened for me, hazimna ishbitkinhu. I'm going to leave the Jews alone. So shavkinhu. So he left the Jews alone and he went away. But what happened is dakar va'achlu v'shasu. The Jews had a humongous party. It's there's the joke about the Jewish holidays that they tried to kill us, we won, and so let's eat. Exactly. But the point is that we should be careful about the holidays. Maybe we can have the holidays after whoever it is that attacked us dies, but to celebrate the downfall of our opponents, we have to be very careful. And so they started celebrating their what happened. Adliku shrage ad itchazu bilyona degush pakna degush panka berachok mila, and they lit so many candles that even at night you could see the design on a ring from a meal away. So just as the person was able to jump a meal, so too the light went a meal. So Amar Michta Kachadu bi Yehudi. The Jews are celebrating over me, meaning it's as if they won. Hadar Asa Alayhu. So he attacked them again. Amar Abasi Tlasma Alfe Shalife Saifa Ailu Lutur Malka. So as a result, 300,000 sword-wielding soldiers went up to Tur Malka. The Katluba Tilasa Yome Utlasa Lilvasa. And they killed people for 3 days and 3 nights. Ubahakisa Hilule Vichinge. And while these people were doing all this murdering, the other people on the other side of the mountain were continuing to celebrate because they thought that the attacker had gone away, but he'd come back. So what is this like? Bila Ado Shem Velo Chamal Es Kol Neos Yaakov. So Hashem consumed without pity all the dwellings of Yaakov. Kiyasa Rav and Amar Rabbi Yochanan Elu Shishim Rabo Ayaros Shahayulo Liyanai Hamelech Bahar Hamelech. So this is in this Tur Malka location in Har Hamelech, there were 600,000 towns. And that's what it means that Hashem consumed without pity all the dwellings of Yaakov. So to Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Shishim Ribo Ayaros Hayulo Liyanai. Okay, Liyanai Amelech Bahar Amelech. V'chol Achas v'Achas Hayuba Kiyotze Mitzrayim. So there were 600,000 towns, each with 600,000 people, and all of them were all murdered. Chutz Mishalosh Shahayu Behen Kiflayim Kiyotze Mitzrayim, except for 3 which had double the population. And what were the 3 that had double the population? Eluhaim, Kfar Bish, Kfar Shichalayim, Kfar Dechraya, and Kfar Bish, Kfar Shichalayim, and Kfar Dechraya. And why were they called that? Kfar Bish, Delo Yave Besa Ushpiza. They were Kfar Bish. It was the largest because they did not provide a nice place for people who were visiting. Kfar Shichalayim, Shahaisa Parnasasan, Mina Shachlayim. The Kfar Shechlayim was a place where they would sell cress, which is an inexpensive vegetable. Kfar Dechraya, the city of boys. Amar Rabbi Yochanan explained, Shahayu Nishosehen, Yodos Zecharim Tchil. All the families would have boys first. The Yodos Nekeva Ba'achrona, and then they'd have a girl. Uposkos, and they wouldn't have any more children. So they were basically doing just population replacement. So Amar Ula Lididi Chazile Lahahu Asra. 1 second. I saw that place. Va'afilu Shitin Rivosa Kane Lo Machazik. It couldn't even hold 600,000 reeds, let alone 600,000 cities. So Amar Leahu Tzaduki La Rabbi Chanina. So Tzaduki said to Rabbi Chanina, Shakuri Meshakrisu. The rabbis are lying. So Amar Le, Rabbi Chanina said, no, but Eretz Hatzvi Kasivba. With respect to the land of Israel, it refers to it as the land of the deer. Matzvizeh eno ora machazik es bisaro. When you have a deer, once you've taken the skin off the deer, the skin is so tight on the deer, you will never be able to get it back on the deer. So Af Eretz Yisrael, Bisman sheyoshvin alaha ravcha. Whenever the Jews, there's always more room for Jews in Israel. And so as a result, when Jews come in, so the land will expand for them. But when there isn't, when they don't, so then it will contract. All right, so Rav Manyume Barchi, so now let's talk about another town that was destroyed by the Romans. So Rav Manyume Bar Chilkiah, Rav Chilkiah Bar Tuvia, Rav Huna Bar Richia, Havuyatve Gabe Hadade. So they were all sitting together. Amri, they said, Ika Deshmiale Milsa Bikfar Sachanya Shal Mitzrayim Lema. Have you heard anything about this place called Kfar Sachanya that's in Egypt? And they said yes. Pasuk Chad Minayu va'Amar Masa ba'arus va'arusa so shenishbu lebein havdei kochavim. There was a couple that were engaged. They had done erisin, but they had not done nisuin, and they were captured by idolaters. He siyum zelazet. And the captors wanted them to mate with one another in order to produce offspring. Amrulo, the wife said, "B'vakasha mimcha, al tigabi she'ein li ksuba mimcha." Listen, we haven't done nisuin. We don't have a ketubah. We can't get married. So velo nagaba ad yomoto. So they didn't touch until the day they died, because even though they were captured. Ukeshemes amralahen. And when he died, she told everybody around, Siftulazet, you should eulogize this man. Shapipe beyitzro yoter miyosef. He defeated his Yetzer Hara more than Yosef Hatzadik did. Because what did Yosef Hatzadik do? Right? Yosef was able to avoid having relations with Bas Potiphar, with Potiphar's wife. Excuse me. Deilu be Yosef lo hava elachad shata. There was just a moment in time when he was alone with her, right? Because she had set up the whole day so that she would be alone with him. V'hai kol yoma v'yoma. But the other person was tempted every day and was alone with her every day. V'ilu Yosef la b'chadamita. There is only one bed, meaning they were only together at one moment. V'hai b'chadamita. And this one was in one bed. V'ilu Yosef lav ishto. And when Yosef was, it was not, they weren't married. And here this person was able to avoid the temptation despite the fact that he was being put in bed with his actual wife. So Pasach Idach Ba'amar. So another sage now said another great thing about this place, Kfar Sachanya. Masa v'amdu arba'im modios. So we see the dinar. So again, we see how righteous the people were in the town. So it was a time where the price of grain stood for 40 modios for a dinar. Next are hashar modia achas, but then the price the rate dropped by a modia, meaning that you had to pay more for less, right? Or you had to pay the same for less. So the price went up. And even though the price went up by only a few percentage, ubudku, they wanted to see what's going on. Why is the price changing? And they realized umatsu av ubno shabo al nara morasa biyoma kippurim. They found out that a father and a son had relations with a betrothed nara on Yom Kippur. Behevim lebeisdin uskalum. And what did they do? They brought him to the court and they were killed. B'chazar hasharlim komo. And as a result, the price went back to its rightful place. So again, we see how scrupulous all of the people in the town were with respect to any kind of violation. Yeah.
The other story, I mean, they could have done Nisuin, right?
Right. That's why she mentions that we didn't have a ketubah. Presumably, they weren't given the implements to actually write a ketubah, and so it's only a rabbinic issue that they couldn't. They could have gotten, for example, they could, even though we don't do it as a practice, they could have used bia as a method of relations. There were a number of different solutions, but from a rabbinic perspective, it was not viewed as a positive act. So it's emphasizing the holiness of the people in that town.
You couldn't have written her a ketubah.
Well, the implication is that they didn't.
No,
No. Remember, these people were captives, and so there was nobody around them. They were.
You can't write your own ketubah.
You could, but that assumes that he's able to write. I mean, it's not clear whether what level of education, whether and you need witnesses to the ketubah. So it's not so simple. That's the implication. The point is just to be clear, it was only a rabbinic issue that was preventing them, not even something biblical. All right, so Psaki. So now we've got two stories. One more story about the righteousness of the people in this place. A man wanted to divorce his wife, but he didn't. But he had a big ksuba, and he didn't want to have to pay it. So what did he do? Halak v'ziman es shushvinan. So he invited some friends. Ve'achilan v'hishkan shikaran v'hishkivan alamita achas. So he got them all drunk and he laid them down on a bed with his wife. Ve'hebi loben beitza v'hitil b'neihen. And he took some egg and the white part of an egg, and he caused it to look like they had marital relations. So then he had witnesses come and see what had happened, and he took them to court. And he took his wife to court to say she had committed adultery, and therefore he wouldn't have to pay the ksuba. Sham zaken echad mitalmidei shamai hazaken. So there was a student, an older student, rabbi who was a student of Shammai, of Beit Shammai, Uvava ben Buta Shmo, and his name was Bava ben Buta. Va'amar lahen, and he told everybody, I learned the following: Loven beitza solar minaor. The white of an egg shrinks down when you have a fire, but shikla zera docha minaor. But when you have actual semen, so then it will flow. It will continue to flow. So badku matzu kidvarav. So they found, in fact, that it was egg and not semen that was there. Veheviu leveisdim vehilkua. So they took the guy out and they flogged him. Vehigbu ksuba sami menu, and they forced him to give her the ksuba. So Amar Leah Bayil Rav Yosef. Well, 1 second. Well, if this town was so righteous, that look at all the different things that they did in order to indicate that they, that try and stay on the right path. My time, why were they punished? So Amrlei Mishum Delo Abel al Yerushalayim, because they did not mourn Yerushalayim. Dixiv Simchu es Yerushalayim begiluva ko aveh sisu ata misos kol hamisablim aleha. That glad in Yerushalayim and rejoice all those who love her. Be elated with her, all those who mourn for her. So if you don't mourn for her, you won't be elated, and bad things will happen. And so this is, again, these are all Gemaras that we're allowed to learn on on Tisha B'Av. So it highlights again the Zman, the time of
One good deed doesn't relinquish you from others.
100%. Absolutely. One good deed does not relinquish you from the obligations of others. So Ashka de Rispak Charabesar. So now we have the third of our three stories. We had the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. We had the story of the Tarnagolim, and now we have the story of the carriage. So how was a carriage? How did a carriage destroy Beitar? Dahava nehige. So there was a custom. Dahava kihava misyale yanuka shasli arza. Whenever a boy was born, they planted a cedar. Yanukta. Whenever a girl was born, shasli turnisa. They planted a pine. Kihava minasve. When they were going to get married, kaitzi lahuva avdaganana. So they would make for them the some kind of wedding canopy out of the cutting down those trees. So Yom Echad Havakuk Chalfa Barate to Kesar. So Kesar's daughter was passing by. Idvar Shaka de Rispak, and then the side of her carriage broke. Katsu Arza Va'ailu La. So they saw one of these trees, they cut it down, and they fixed the side of the carriage. Asu naflo alayhu machanuhu. So what did all the Jews in the neighborhood do? Not recognizing, again, this is the third of the three stories of how you cannot just act. You need to think before you act about the ramifications. Again, so important. I'm speaking to myself and having you all listen. When we act, we have to think about the full ramifications and full consequences of what we're doing. And so they didn't think about the consequences. They just went and attacked the Romans. Asu amru la Caesar. So of course the Romans went and told the Caesar, Mardu bach Yehuda, the Jews are rebelling. So Asa alayu. So and of course Caesar then went and killed and destroyed all of Beitar.
I remember telling people what on the computer at work, before you hit send, read that thing 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, and remember that it could be publicized. That exactly. All right. So Gada B'chari Af Kol Keren Yisrael, and so in connection with this destruction of Beitar, it says in Eicha again, which we'll read on Tisha B'Av, that God cut down in fierce anger all the dignity of Israel, all of the Keren, all the core aspect or horn of Israel. So there's a number of different ways we can translate Karen. Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabbi Abau, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So it was said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Elu Shmonim Elef Karnei Milchama Shenichnasu L'Krach Beitar B'Shah Shilikatua. So that these are the 80,000 division leaders that entered the city of Beitar when it was destroyed, when it was captured. V'harguba anashim nashim v'tav, and they killed everybody. Ad shahalach daman v'nafali yamagadol. It killed so many that the blood flowed into the Mediterranean. Shema tomar kurova haita. Oh, maybe you'll say, well, it was Beitar must have been on the coast. It's not true. Rechoka haisa mil. It was a kilometer away. Tanya. And so we learned in a brisa, Rabbi Eliezer Agadol Omer, Shnei Nachalim Yesh Bevikat Yadayim. There are 2 rivers in the valley of Yadayim. Echad Moshech Elach ve'Echad Moshech Elach. Each one goes its own way. The Shiaru Chachamim, and the Chachamim estimated Shnei Chalakim Mayim ve'Echad Dam, that there ended up being, as a result of the destruction, these were rivers of effectively, apparently, blood. There was 2 parts water, 1 part blood. So b'masnisa tana, and we have another brisa, sheva shanim batzru. There were 7 years that batzru ovdei kochavim es karmeyen midaman shel Yisrael below Zevel. That for 7 years the idol worshippers were able to use the water with the blood of the Jews as without having to use any fertilizer, because the blood of apparently the blood has some of the same qualities as fertilizers, as we turn to Nun Zayin Mabet. So Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abin, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. So it said in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha. Sachli Zokin Echad Ma'anche Yerushalayim. So an elderly person of Yerushalayim said, B'vikazu harag Nevuzradan Rav Tabachim Masayim Ba'achas Esrei Ribo. So now we're going to go back in time to the destruction of the first base of Mikdash. And an elderly resident of Yerushalayim was said in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Karcha, that was told that in this particular valley, Nebuzradan, the chief executioner, slaughtered 211,000 10,000s. So that is 211 10,000s, excuse me, 211 10,000s, meaning 2,110,000 people. Yerushalayim harag tisha va'arba ribo al eben achas, and 940,000 were killed on one stone. Ad shahalach daman v'naga b'damo shel Zechariah, until their blood flowed and touched the blood of Zechariah. So who was Zechariah? So Zechariah, of course, was a Navi, and he had warned the Jewish aristocrats that and rebuked them for treating King Yoash as if he was God. And so they killed him. And as a result of their killing him, so the point is that his blood needed to be avenged. L'kayim mashenamar, in order to fulfill what was said, v'damim b'damim naga'u, that blood will touch blood, is a pasuk from Hosea. So now, why did all these people get killed in that earlier time in connection with the first base of Mikdash? Because when Nebuzradan was there, he found Zechariah's blood boiling and bubbling on the floor of the Beit HaMikdash. Amar Maihai, he said to everybody, what's going on here? Amrulei, Dams Bachim de Ishtabuch. This is just blood of sacrifices that spilled. They were lying. Aitu Demei below Idmu. So Nebuzradan sacrificed some animals, killed some animals, and showed this is not the blood of animals. So Amralahu, so he said to them, I amritu li mutav. If you tell me honestly, so then fine. But the ilav masrikna levisraichu b'masrikelu defarzale. I'm going to tear your flesh with iron combs. Amrulay. So they told him, my name Alach. What can we tell you? Neviah Hava ben Dahava kamochach lan b'mile dishmaya. So there was a prophet that was among us that would tell us, that would rebuke us in the name of God. Kaminan al Eliva v'kadlinan lay. So we got up and we killed him. And his blood has not rested for many years. So Amar lahu, I'm going to appease him. So Aitu Sanhedre Gedola v'Sanhedre Katana. So they took all of the courts in Israel and Katal Elivu, and they slew them over the blood of Zechariah. Nach, below Nach, but it didn't rest. Bachurim u'Basulus Katal Elivu below Nach. So they killed a bunch of young people, and it still didn't rest. Aitu Tzinokos shall base Rabban v'Katal Elivu v'nat lo Nach. So he killed the students, and it still didn't rest. So Amrlai, at this point, Nebuzradan is like, I don't know who else to kill. Zechariah, he said, Tovim shebehen ibadtim. I destroyed their best. Nichalach da'avdinu lekulho. Should I kill all of them? Kida Amrlai hachinach. When he said this, so then the blood stopped boiling and it came to rest. And at that moment, Nebuzradan realized, maybe I should be doing tshuva. Amar Uma im al nefesh achad kach. If for the killing of one person, this punishment is so severe. Ahu Gavra, this person, namely me, Dekato Kolhani, Nishmasa al achas kama kama. How much worse am I going to get? And because I killed so many people. So Arak, he ran away. Azul Shadar Star Partisa Bevese. And he sent a document of what should happen to all of the property in his house. V'Gayer, and he converted. So So we have a brisa that highlights that this is not the only case of somebody who was a destroyer of Israel that converted. Naaman ger toshav haya. Naaman was also a ger toshav, meaning that they observed the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noah. Nevuzradan ger tzedek haya. Again, Nevuzradan converted to become Jewish. Mibnei banav shel Haman, the children of Haman, the descendants of Haman, limdu Torah b'vnei Brak. They taught Torah in Bnei Brak. Presumably, given that it seems like all of his sons were killed, either they already had grandchildren, or possibly maybe he had daughters as well, and some of those daughters may have had children, and so that's how he had descendants. Nevanav shel Sisra limdu tenogos b'Yerushalayim, and the descendants of Sisra taught children in Yerushalayim. Nevanav shel Sancheriv lamdu Torah b'Rabim, and the descendants of Sancheriv taught Torah in public. And Maninu, who were they? Shemaiah v'Avtalyon. They were Shemaiah v'Avtalyon, the two main disputants that are the fundamental disputants at the beginning of the Gemara. So Hainu Diksiv, this is all that's written. I mean, obviously they lived at the time of the Mishnah, but the early Tanaic era, but they would be beginning the time of the different disputes among the different rabbis. Hainu Diksiv Nasati Estama al Tzechiach Sala Lebilti Akasos. So God placed her blood on a smooth surface of rock so that it will not be covered, meaning it won't be. It's not going to. This is going back to the blood of Zechariah, so that the blood of Zechariah was not absorbed. Okay, so yeah,
it's indicating that converts could be good teachers, maybe.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. That, or at least certainly the descendants of converts.
Right.
It's not clear exactly when each of them. Now, Shemaiah and Avtalyon were known to have seem to be converts. So it could be directly themselves, but it's not 100% clear when in the process conversions happen. Because of course we actually have that the descendants of Bilam, Rus is considered to be a descendant of Bilam, and so as a result, Malchus-based David is considered to be a descendant of Bilam. And of course, and we also have Moab is Lot, so descendants of Lot are also going to be descendants of are Jews as well, and part of the king descendants of Melech of David HaMelech royalty. Thank you. Kol Yaakov Yadayim Yidei Esav. So we're going to use this verse to highlight again the destruction that happened. So Kol Ze Adrayonos Kesar. So the voice is referring to Hadrian. Shaharag be'Alexandria Shal Mitzrayim Shishim Ribo Al Shishim Ribo. So he destroyed 600,000 people plus another 600,000 people. Kiflayim Kiyotse Mitzrayim, like double the number of men who left Egypt. Kal Kol Yaakov Ze Aspasinus Kesar. So and the voice of Yaakov, that's Vespasian. Shaharag b'Bchrach Beitar Arba Meos Ribo, that he slaughtered in Beitar 4 million people. The Amrila Arbas Alofin Ribo, and some people say it was 40 million. V'Hayadayim de Esav Zo Malchus Harisha. This is the evil kingdom of government of Rome. Shehecha Riva es Beitenu v'Sarfes Hechalenu v'Higlisanu Me'artzenu, because they destroyed our temple, burned down the Hechal, and exiled us from our land. Davar Acher, another interpretation, Hakol Kol Yaakov, Ein Lecha Tefila Shemo Ela She'ein Ba Mizaru Shel Yaakov. There's no prayer that's going to be successful without involvement of the descendants of Yaakov. V'Hayadayim Yidei Esav, Ein Lecha Milchama Shenotzachas She'ein Ba Mizaru Shel Esav. In order to be victorious in battle, you must have involved a descendant of Esav. Okay, V'Hainu De'amar Rabbi Elazar. So back to our story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. That refers to, and this Rashi is the one who tells us that this is going back to Bar Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. B'shot lashon techaveh, when the tongue is shot, that's the word in Hebrew, you should hide. So what does shot mean? B'chirchure lashon techave. That it's sort of like, I guess, maybe an abbreviation, that the contentions of the tongue you should hide. So you want to make sure to avoid any kind of chirchure must mean shot, so that when you want to try to avoid those kinds of contentious speech, and again highlights really how careful we should be about everything that we say. All right, so Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, my diksiv al naros Bavel sham yashavnu gam bechinu b'zachrenu es Tion. So the beginning of al naros Bavel. Why is David saying this? So we see from here, Melamed sheher anu HaKadosh Baruch Hu David Chorban Bayis Rishon v'Chorban Bayis Sheni. David was shown the destruction of both Beis Hamikdashes. Chorban Bayis Rishon shenemar al naros Bavel sham yashavnu gam bechinu. Right, so he references Bavel, which was destroyed, the first Beis Hamikdash. Bayis Sheni diksiv Zachor Hashem livnei Edom es Yom Yerushalayim haomrim aru ad hayesod ba. So remember the day of Yerushalayim for the descendants of Edom. Edom is Rome. So that they, because they're the ones who say destroy it to its very foundation. So again, a hint to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Omri. So this verse of talking about for your sake we are killed all the time. This that was referenced earlier. So that we're going to now talk a little bit more about it. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel v'itema Rabbi Ami v'Amri la b'misnisa Tana masa ba'arba ma'os yaladim v'yalados shenishbu l'kalon. There were 400 boys and 400 girls that were taken 400 boys and girls that were taken captive, and they were going to be forced to engage in inappropriate activity. And Rashi explains that the boys were taken for the men to lie with them, and the girls were taken so that they would be concubines. Hirgushu ba'atzman lama hein mispakshin. And so they figured out what they were going to be used for. Amru, they said, Im anu tovin biyam anu ba'in l'chayolam haba. If we drown ourselves, will we go to the world to come? Darish lehen hagadol bahen. The oldest of them said the following: Amar adu Shem ibashan ashiv imutzulos yam. That Hashem says that I will bring back from Bashan, I will bring back from the depths of the sea. So Bashan ashiv mibein shinei aryeh. So from Bashan means it can be viewed as an abbreviation of ben shinei aryeh, from between the teeth of a lion. Ashiv mitzulos yam elu shetovim b'yam, and bring back from the depth of the sea. That's those who drown in the sea. So Kevin sheshamu yaladus kach. When the girls heard this, kavtzu kulan v'naflu tochayam, they all jumped into the sea. Nasu yaladim kal v'chomer ba'atzman. So the boys all said, listen, we should certainly jump into the sea, because mahalal should darken l'kach, that this is what the girls did, and they weren't being asked to do anything that was involved in atypical, inappropriate, a Torah prohibited a relationship. Anusha ein darkenu kach. For us, this would be totally bad. So as a result, we should certainly give up ourselves. Because of your sake, God, we all are killed all the time. We are considered as sheep to slaughter. Rav Yehuda Amar Zo Isha v'Shiva Banah. That verse refers, we're now going to deal with 4 different other explanations for this verse. The first one is that this is the woman and her 7 sons, a famous story. So Asyuhu Kama Lekame de Kesar Amrule. So the first son was brought to for Kesar, and he said, Plakla avodas kochavim. So bow to this idol. Amrlahu Kasav B'Torah Anochi Hashem Lokecha. And so I can't, because it says the Torah says the first commandment is I'm your God. Abkuhu v'Kadlu. So they killed him. Asyuhu leidach lekamei kesar amrulei. So the second one, plakla avodas kochavim, bow to this idol. Amar lahu kasav b'Torah lo yelecha Elohim acherim al panai. Don't have other gods. Abku v'kadlu. So they killed him. Asyuhu leidach amrulei. Plakla avodas kochavim. Again, amar lahu kasav b'Torah zobeach lelohim yecharam. Those who sacrifice to a god, the false gods, are going to be destroyed. So they killed him. So number 4 now, they again worship. Don't bow to another god. So they killed him. Number I can't remember whether this is 5 or 6. Again worship the idol. So they killed him. This is number 6. So again, an emphasis that God is the only one. So they killed him. The last one. Maybe this is number 6. I'm sorry. Worship an idol. Amrlahu. Kasav Torah as Hashem Hamarta V'chulu Hashem Hamircha Hayom. So again, Hashem is the one who singled out the Jewish people. So of course I can't. Kvar Nishbanu LaKadosh Baruch Hu, we already swore to God. She'ein anu ma'avirim oso be'el acher. We're not going to worship another God. Va'avhu nishba lanu, and he swore to us. She'ein ma'avir osanu be'uma acher. He's not going to choose another nation. Amar le Kesar ishti lach gushpana. Bushkanka. Listen, I'm just going to throw down my ring to you. Ugachin ushkale. So no, this is number 7. So and so just bend down and pick it up. So look, I'm not trying. Let's find some kind of compromise. Kiheki de limru kabil alei harmona demalka. So people will at least say that you're accepting my authority. Amrle, the boy said to him, Chava Allah Kesar, Chava Allah Kesar. Look, woe to you, Kesar. Wait, woe to you, Kesar. Al kavod atzmacha kach. You're so concerned for your own honor. Al kavod HaKadosh Baruch Hu alachas kama v'kama. How much more so should we all be concerned for God's honor? So they took him away to kill him. Before they did, Amra lahu ime, his mother said to them, Yavuhu niale v'inashke porta. Let me give him a kiss. Amra lo. So she said to him, Banai lechu v'imru la'Avraham avichem. Go tell Abraham when you are in heaven, Ata akadta mizbeach echad, you offered one sacrifice on one altar, namely Yitzchak, but ani akadti shiva mizbechos. I had 7 altars. Av he also lagag. Then she went up to the roof, and nafla umesa. She went down and fell and died. Yatz basko va'amra aim abanim smecha. A mother of the children rejoices that she, on some level, although obviously not fully, was proud of all of her children, that they were able to withstand the temptation and do the proper action of giving up their lives, not to worship another god. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Amar Zo Mila Shenitna Bishmini. This is all right. So now we go back to the alternative understandings of Ki Alecha Horagnu, that for your sake we're being killed all the time. We are considered like sheep to slaughter. That actually this is a reference to Bris Milah, Shenitna Bishnina, that we do on the 8th day because it's risky for our lives, and yet we do it because of our love for God. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omar, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said, Elu Talmidei Chacham Shemarin Hilchos Shchita Ba'atzman. This is actually a reference to Torah scholars who show and teach how to engage in ritual slaughter by showing and demonstrating on themselves. Not that they actually did the slaughter, but they would put the knife essentially against their neck. Dama Rava, because Rava said, Kol mili lechazei inish b'nafshe. Anything you demonstrate against yourself, you can demonstrate against yourself, but bar mishchita b'davar acher. Don't demonstrate yourself with respect to how to do shchita or davar acher. Rashi explains that this is tsaras. And Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. So the point being that you shouldn't engage in behavior with respect to yourself that indicates some kind of bad thing happening to you. So that's what this is telling us. And Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak says, no, this 5th interpretation of this pasuk, that really what it means is Elu Talmidei Chachamim Shemisin Atzman Al Divrei Torah. That this refers to the scholars who figuratively kill themselves as they try to learn Torah. K'da Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, as Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish teaches, the Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Ein Divrei Torah Miskaimin. The only way that we can permanently except our Torah ela b'mi shememis atzmo aleihen, is by effectively one who kills himself over it. Shenemar zos haTorah Adam kiyamot ba'ohel, that we had in the beginning of Parshas Chukas, that we had when we had the laws of the Paraduma. It doesn't say Zos. Well, it says Zos HaTorah. It doesn't say, you know, this is and Torah can mean the process, but we can also now read it literally as Zos HaTorah. This is the Torah. The Torah is Adam Kiyamus Ba'oel. That how do we keep the Torah? How do we retain the Torah? It's by engaging in significant effort in order to try and study it. So we are still in the middle of this Gemara, which is the Gemara that we can learn even on Tisha B'Av, because it talks about the destruction of the Jewish people. And we will finally get back to our Mishnah. Mishnah referenced Sikrakon, these people who steal property from Jews. I know 2 weeks from Thursday will be Tisha B'Av. Wednesday night will be Tisha B'Av, exactly. And so this is appropriate that we're learning all of this now and having these stories, so that we will hopefully have a more meaningful Tisha B'Av.
So your idea is the last one is that you should literally kill yourself to learn Torah, or I mean,
Well, it's meant to be figuratively, I would say. Literally, but
Good morning, guys.
It's kind of like, you know, I mean, there are other texts that, you know, you should have a more balanced life or something, to have a job or something, but, you know, but.
I don't think that it's referring to the amount of time. I would take it as more about that when you're about the effort, exactly. That this is meaning don't put in a half blank effort. But when you study Torah, you pay full attention to your learning of Torah, and that's the method of being most successful at learning Torah. One can actually understand it as meaning, you know, give all of yourself. When you're learning Torah, you have to be giving all of yourself to that Torah education.
No multiple.
I just wanted to mention that I think the story of Hannah and her 7 sons established the concept of killing yourself for Kiddush Hashem during our Kiddush. I think that very much came down to us as a model for the way Jews actually behaved in the Galut.
Absolutely, and that is exactly why, right? That story ends, that the mother of the children rejoices. That in fact this is the method. The Gemara is also advocating that in fact this is the proper behavior when forced to engage in idolatry, is that we should be moser nefesh and give up our lives in order to avoid it. You should cough, everybody. These are long dapim because lots of agadita. So appreciate everybody's patience. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Yeah, not much rock today.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye. We'll have new stories tomorrow.